Watching KAVU 25 News Now weekends at 5:30.
Good afternoon and thank you for joining us. I'm Karina Garcia. Everyone's eyes on Beryl this evening. Let's check in with First Warn Storm Team meteorologist Trey Mining for the latest.
Yes, we're starting to feel the effects of Beryl as we speak, courtesy of some rain bands coming on through. Here's one moving toward Victoria as we speak now. They'll be coming on through. It'll die down for a while. Another one will come on through. They'll become more and more numerous as we get closer to the hurricane center crossing the coastline. And so that'll be something to anticipate for the next few hours. Once the center moves inland, it'll be a continuous area of rain and wind. Looks like it'll be more than likely to the east of Victoria, but we can't let our guard down here in the city because we'll still feel some effects of it. It's still a tropical storm, but looking at the satellite picture here, it's very impressive to me. It looks very hurricane-like. And if you notice, it looks like an eye is trying to develop right there in the center. So I would not be surprised in the next advisory that comes out that this is upgraded to a hurricane. We've been watching that for quite a while. Looks like I wouldn't be surprised if that finally gets upgraded as it heads toward the coast. It has a short little area to cover of open water for it to become a stronger hurricane. So it's moving fairly quickly. So it'll be out through your day tomorrow, and then pretty much out of here by late on Monday night. We have to get to that point though. We got a lot to talk about. We'll cover it all a little bit later on in this half hour. Karina?
Trey, thank you. Saturday, Refugio County issued a mandatory evacuation. The order says the area is still recovering from the devastating effects of Hurricane Harvey back in 2017. Emergency services, personnel, and first responders in Refugio are limited. County leaders are also concerned about heavy traffic from the 4th of July holiday. And St. Joseph High School Dome in Victoria is now open as a shelter. Residents can use cots, access showers, and even find mental health resources at the shelter. Residents should only bring essential items with them when they arrive.
We want you to bring your essential items if you're on medical, if you have medical equipment that you need, obviously not a hospital bed, but if you've got a CPAP or have medical medications that you need, please bring those with you.
St. Joseph High School is at 110 East Red River in Victoria. The shelter will take in anyone at any time during the storm. The Salvation Army of Victoria will also serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now, there's also a second shelter in Bloomington at the Bloomington Elementary School Dome. That's at 200 North Leonard. The city of Palacios is also opening a shelter at the Central Elementary Cafeteria. And homes and businesses along the Texas Gulf Coast are getting ready for Tropical Storm Beryl. As of Sunday this morning, the storm is bringing 65-mile-an-hour winds. The center of Beryl is expected to strengthen before making landfall. A voluntary evacuation order is in place for some areas in the Gulf Coast. That includes Calhoun County. A storm surge warning is now in place for areas from St. Louis Pass to High Island, including that Galveston Bay area. And reporter Zach Brown is in Port Lavaca right now, getting a first-hand look at those hurricane preparations. Zach, what can you tell us?
Lots of anticipation for what Beryl could bring to the crossroads. It is currently a tropical storm with the fear that it could become a hurricane by the time it touches land. Now, we're here in Bayfront Peninsula in Port Lavaca. On our way in from Victoria, you could definitely see how dark the clouds were on our way in, and the gusts of wind have definitely picked up. Now, of course, here in Calhoun, the evacuations were not mandatory, but as Chief Meteorologist Mac Perez told me, just because they were not mandatory doesn't mean that you should not seek shelter and shelter in place. You should always shelter in place, be careful, and make sure all your belongings are tied down. There's also the fear for a potential storm surge, which of course could cause massive flooding. Mac Perez told me that in a storm like this, down power lines and down trees is usually the minimum damage to expect, which is always very much dangerous. Now, in Victoria, tropical force winds are expected to arrive by midnight, maybe even a little bit earlier. There are a lot of people here at Bayfront Peninsula who are storm chasing and just checking it out. Certainly wouldn't recommend that. You want to be careful in a storm like this. Reporting live from Bayfront Peninsula, Zach Brown, KAVU TV 25 News Now Sports.
Zach, thank you. And of course, people all along the Texas Gulf Coast are preparing for the arrival of Beryl. Residents are boarding up and stocking up. Beryl is currently a tropical storm expected to re-strengthen into a hurricane before making landfall. Beryl is currently moving through the Gulf at 12 miles per hour and will likely make landfall, of course, like we've been saying, sometime early Monday morning between the hours of 2 to 3.
It frustrates the locals a little bit, you know. They just think it's going to be some grand rainstorm, but it's really not. We take it very serious, especially after the Harvey situation.
And the city of Houston is already feeling the effects of the storm, leaving some streets underwater, making it tough for drivers there. And over in Corpus Christi, people were out gathering sandbags in preparation for the storm, which is forecast to bring several inches of rain and up to 5 feet of storm surge there. Shelters along the coast are preparing as well, making sure they have space for people who may be displaced by Beryl. Officials with one shelter in Harlingen say it's important for people to bring in anything they may need with them as they ride out the storm.
Medications are very important for any individual coming into the shelter because with the weather, we don't want to rely on EMS to try to, get to our area when there might be someone else in need.
Hurricane Beryl has already torn through parts of the Caribbean and Mexico, killing at least 9 people. And Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick issued a disaster declaration for a total of 121 counties in response to Hurricane Beryl. 9 counties in the crossroads are listed. That's including Calhoun, DeWitt, Goliad, Jackson, Lavaca, Matagorda, Refugio, Victoria, and Wharton. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is the acting governor, while Governor Greg Abbott is out of the country on an economic development mission. So here is your viewer poll. You can scan that QR code right there on your screen to vote. The question is, did you evacuate ahead of Beryl? Yes or no? According to our results, it looks like 14% voted yes, and the remaining 86% stand at no. Thank you for voting. We want to hear from you on this. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part, and I will have an update on 25 News Now at 10. Around 2 p.m., the state of Texas held a press conference. Leaders are urging everyone from the coastal areas to Houston up to College Station to be prepared for the storm.
Coastal, inland, and the Houston area are the 3 areas that I see that I want to be sure everyone is alert. Yesterday, I declared an additional 81 counties in the disaster area, so we are now at 120 counties in the disaster area. You may ask why? One of the reasons as this storm moves, and the good news is that it looks like it will move quickly through the state. If you'll remember Harvey many years ago, that storm hung around for days at a time because it slowed down, dumping rain on rain and rain. This will be a heavy rain event, but the storm will move quickly, at least as the forecast is right now, and that is subject to change. But it will go up through the state. So areas like College Station could see significant rain and flooding. So could Tyler, Texarkana, and other communities. Once again, that's on this track. If this track moves, which it often does in the last 12 hours to 15 hours of a hurricane coming ashore, then all communities inland should be prepared for heavy rain and potential flooding, and that's why you need to listen to your local officials as well in your local forecast for where you live. On the coast, we have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people who are spending their summer vacation there, holiday weekend on top of that. And there is a concern that because they're not in their daily routine of watching the news or checking their internet or checking their emails, that they may not be aware of this storm. One of the things that kind of trigger our concern a little bit, we've looked at all of the roads leaving the coast and the maps are still green. So we don't see many people leaving. And what you will hear from our chief of our emergency management team, Nim Kidd, in a few moments, is that you don't want to be on the road tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a bad day for weather. This storm is predicted right now by the National Hurricane Center to land somewhere between Corpus Christi and Galveston Island. So if you're at Galveston, you may say, well, it's down in Corpus. If you're at Corpus, you're saying, gee, it's coming right here. This can change, and very often will change, as we've seen from past storms. The National Hurricane Center actually says their average change of where they predict a storm to fall and where it falls can be 50 to 60 miles in the last 12 to 15 hours. So we could see movement on the storm. But right now, if you're between Corpus and Galveston, be prepared. Be prepared as we are trying to prepare here. Look, our number one mission in the state, and Nim Kidd's number one mission, and your local mayors and your local county judges and officials, is to save your life.
Of course, if you have not signed up to receive emergency notifications with Code Red, please do so right now to stay informed with the city's updates on Hurricane Beryl. To sign up to receive these emergency notifications, text Alert Victoria to 99411. Again, that's text Alert Victoria to 99411. And stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 5:30, the search for a missing little girl continues. We hear from her father this evening.
And we're zoomed in here to the storm. It looks very hurricane-like to me. It's not that far offshore. Here's the core of the storm. Only about 160, 170 miles south of Matagorda Bay. Moving to the north, northwest, toward this area right here. We'll give you the details on that coming up.
A woman drowned in Lake Conroe July 4th and 2 men now arrested for operating a boat while intoxicated in connection with her drowning. Authorities say the drowning happened after 9 in the evening. They say 31-year-old Jerry McMeekin was not wearing a life jacket when she fell off the boat. 3 people jumped in the water to save her but were unsuccessful. Her brother-in-law and another man were arrested and charged with boating while intoxicated. Investigators say the 2 men were each operating separate boats that were traveling together at the time of her drowning. On May 29th, a 12-year-old girl from Georgia vanished. Maria Gomez Perez was last seen more than a month ago near her hometown of Gainesville. That's about 55 miles northeast of Atlanta. The community is determined to find her.
Today, community members looking to bring missing 12-year-old Maria Gomez Perez home unveiled a banner on a busy stretch of Jesse Jewell Parkway in Gainesville, hoping that someone passing by will see it and help solve this case. Christy Vasquez drove all the way from Marietta to show her support.
I have daughters, Latina daughters, that are 11 and 13 years old, so this very well could be us. You know, this really hit home. They play online a lot, they meet people online, they chat with people that we don't know, unfortunately. So this really hit home.
Community activist Art Gallegos is hoping the sign will get more people engaged in the search for Maria.
I think that we need to personalize this. We can't just say that this is another 13-year-old girl from Guatemala that just disappeared in our city.
And while Hall County investigators continue to investigate leads, Maria's dad, Andres Gomez, says the banner is a sign of hope.
Seeing everybody that is coming together, that you're not giving up, and seeing all these signs be put up, thank you so much.
Anyone who knows anything about Maria's disappearance is being urged to contact police.
The Hall County Sheriff's Office says investigators have received leads from several states all the way from South Carolina to right here in Texas and up to Maryland. But so far, those tips haven't brought them any closer to finding Maria. Multiple local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies are assisting in the investigation, including the FBI and Homeland Security. A third suspect now arrested in connection to a fatal shooting at a Juneteenth celebration in Round Rock, Texas. 2 people were killed and 14 other people were hurt after the incident. Keshawn Dixon was arrested Saturday and charged with deadly conduct and possibly more charges. He is just 18 years old. For more on today's news stories, come to crossroadstoday.com. We have everything you need to know about Beryl, including the full press conference by the state of Texas this afternoon.
And Beryl is still technically a tropical storm. It's getting close to hurricane strength. I wouldn't be surprised in the next advisory it is upgraded to a hurricane. It's not that far offshore, too. What can we expect and when? Find out coming up. And good evening, everyone. Of course, Trey Mining here on your Sunday, and Beryl has been the topic of a conversation for quite a bit of time. And here's the latest. They're a tropical storm, still a tropical storm officially. 65-mile-per-hour winds around the center. Note the northerly winds and the northerly movement, I should say, at 12 miles per hour. So it's moving on at a fairly good pace. It will not be hanging around too long before it moves up into the East Texas Lakes area and past there. So it's not going to hang around, so that's definitely a good thing. But we're still waiting for this to become a hurricane if it continues to do so. It looks like it has pretty much a small window of development. If it's going to be a hurricane, it has this about 100 miles or so to get that accomplished, but hopefully it won't. But it's looking better organized as we head toward the last several hours especially. Rainfall is going to be an issue. Where the center goes inland, of course, that is the main thing we need to watch. If it goes inland right here, of course, to the right will be the heaviest rainfall, the highest winds. Threat of tornadoes is greater here, and storm surge is greater here as well. To the west side of the system, drier air comes in down from the north around the circulation center. It's definitely a lot drier, so you can definitely see the line here between the right-hand side of the storm and the left-hand side of the storm. So it depends on where that center goes inland. Then we get the heaviest rainfall and the worst weather from the storm, of course. Just to reiterate, hurricane warning still in effect for all the Crossroads coastal areas. Tropical storm warnings up there near Galveston down toward Corpus Christi, and that'll be while we're going through your day on Monday as well. Something else to keep in mind, storm surge. It depends on where the center goes inland. If it goes inland right here, of course, toward Palacios, where the center is and to the right will be the highest storm surge in the storm system, pushing that water in from the Gulf into the overland areas along the beachfront and all along the bayfront as well, piling that water up in Lavaca Bay and also near Olivia there and Point Comfort. So these areas, especially in northern parts of the bay along the immediate Gulf Coast, we exactly need to be careful. It should be out of there by now with the storm getting closer and moving on through. Looking at the future tracker, well, we have the storm in Beryl still offshore, making its way to the north. Looks like it's become better organized, maybe a hurricane more than likely by the time it gets to the land areas of the southern Texas coast, coming up by 4 a.m. or so, should be inland by then. Notice to the west of Victoria, Cornelius weather model here. Heaviest rain toward Galveston, Houston, wrapping around the center, toward Edna, Inez, and El Campo. We in Victoria getting close to that. We'll have very gusty winds, some hurricane force gusts, not out of the question, and some brief heavy rainfall. But thankfully, as you see there, it's moving fairly quickly. So coming up by Monday afternoon, evening, I think we should be out of it, of course. Hopefully, it should pass on through. Giving you a little look at the circulation center here and the water temperatures and the wind speeds, of course. It goes around like this counterclockwise. The closer to the center you get, the higher the winds will be. And that'll be moving on through, coming up in the evening hours. So Port Lavaca tonight, windy, heavy rainfall at times. Coming in those rain bands and getting more and more concentrated as head toward the evening into the overnight, with Beryl making landfall after midnight. Temperatures tomorrow's highs are only in the 80s. Cuero the same way, high temperatures in the 80s for your day up there in Cuero. Isolated scattered rain showers and storms. Still gusty winds for that area as well, and all the crossroads counties. Alert day tomorrow, Tuesday and Wednesday for the threat of heavy rainfall with the movement of Beryl through the area. Beginning to subside, still keeping rain chances in for the end of the week into next weekend. High temperatures in the 70s, low temperatures. High temperatures in the 80s near 90 degrees, lows in the 70s, alert days for all 3 days. Be weather aware, stay tuned to us. We'll keep you informed all online and on our broadcast stations here. And check this out right here. This is the QR code. One way you can stay connected with us is like this. Scan that code to take you to a webpage. You can download our app. News, weather, and sports at your fingertips. Very easy, convenient, free of charge. And to keep connected with us with everything you need to know. Karina?
Thank you, Trey. And straight ahead, we toss it over to meteorologist Scott Pitney, who shows us how people in Port Aransas are preparing for Beryl. Meteorologist Scott Pitney was in Port Aransas. Here's a look at how people out there are preparing for Beryl.
I'm in Port Aransas on this Sunday morning, and right behind me is the ferry landing. See the traffic building up already. This area is in a mandatory evacuation zone, and so folks are preparing to leave Port Aransas. I asked some of those folks how they felt about the mandatory evacuation and if they had any concerns with traffic.
Yes, sir, we do. We actually live right here at the marina on a sailboat. I'm actually going to leave, and I'm taking 2 of our animals with us. My husband's going to stay because he wants to stay with the boat. Also, his job requires him to stay here. We're tied in. Everything's in off of the dock. Everything's in off the deck, so everything has a flat surface so that the wind can go ahead and just blow across, and we won't have anything flying around. We're going to head to Beeville. I'm sure there's going to be traffic. It's just taking your time and just driving politely. And just letting everybody get to where they're going so everybody gets there safely.
Yes, that's why we're leaving a little bit earlier than what was planned. I'm not sure. I think we'll be stuck in traffic today.
With the 25 News Now First Warn Storm Team, I'm meteorologist Scott Pitney.
Thank you, Scott, for that update. Now, one of the world's largest airlines is expected to break a record Sunday. Dallas-based American Airlines says it expects to fly 775,000 customers. That's the most passengers for the airline on a single day in its history. In total, American Airlines says 6,500 flights will either take off or land on Sunday. The airlines is also responding to potential delays because of Hurricane Beryl. American said it would offer waivers for change fees and to and from some Texas airports that are going to be impacted by this storm. And stay with us. Coming up, 4 NASA volunteers emerge from more than a full year in isolation. Their story and one last look at your weather next. We want to invite you to experience our digital streaming service, Crossroads Today Plus. You can find it on your connected TV through Amazon, Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, and Android TV. Just search Crossroads Today Plus. A major step forward today for NASA's mission to send astronauts to Mars. Late today, 4 volunteers emerged from more than a full year in isolation here on Earth, 378 days to be exact, all to simulate and study what it would be like for humans to actually live on Mars. And that meant mock spacewalks and even growing and harvesting some crops and practice Martian habitats. The mission's commander says that while it was hard to leave loved ones behind, the crew became really close during their isolation.
I am so proud and honored to be part of this crew and project, and to be a part of a small incremental part of the work being done here on Earth that will one day enable humans to explore and live on Mars.
NASA is hoping to send astronauts to the Red Planet in the late 2030s. Huge, great accomplishments there for NASA out in Houston.
Tell you what, talk about taking your job seriously.
Isolation, 378
wow,
days.
That had not to be easy, I'm sure.
Well, back here at home, we have all our eyes on Hurricane Beryl. We can expect 60-mile-per-hour winds, which means down trees, maybe some down power lines.
Yes.
What's the latest right now?
You just about guarantee that with this type of system. It's still a tropical storm, but it looks very impressive on satellite that I showed you a little bit ago. So as I say again, I would not be surprised if this storm is upgraded to hurricane coming in the next advisory as it moves on through. But it has only a short distance to really get its act together because it's getting closer to the coastline, which is good. So it means it doesn't have a whole lot of time to get really strong. But it still may be a hurricane strength more than likely. Headed just to the east of Victoria, will be on the western side. We can expect very gusty winds through Monday, and some 60-70 mile per hour gusts are possible in the area of Victoria County, and even more so from the areas from about El Campo to the east where the stronger area of the storm will be. So be careful out there, watch weather development, stay weather aware, and we'll keep you updated right here as we go through the next day or two.
Yeah, and Trey, earlier you were over at the St. Joseph shelter. What were some things that you saw? How are they getting ready for that? Well,
that one thing that's a very good, they'll feed you. The Salvation Army is cooking meals. They'll feed you breakfast, lunch, and dinner during the duration of the storm, so you don't have to worry about that. They got showers there, the cots in the inside the big dome area. So everything you need, all in comfort. Of course, the security is there to make sure everyone's safe.
That's right, and they're accepting people in during any point in time.
Any point in time, yes.
Great to have right now. Alrighty, thank you, Trey. And thank you for joining us. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today, and stay with us as we continue to cover Beryl.